So I've talked a lot about blockchains and what they can do and addresses and all of these things. And I know that I've actually not even explained even remotely what it is. So let me explain to you how it actually works and what the workflow looks like. And obviously, this is one of the major points of where I'm going with this. So here's how it starts. You have a transaction. So this is what you want to do. So how does that work? Well, you have an account here, my account. So this is from one of my accounts. I want to send money, which is 0.002 Ether, and I want to send it to another address of mine. What I do is I write this transaction down, then I do something which is referred to as I digitally sign it, and that is essentially it. Now, that information is then sent to a peer-to-peer network of validators, which you see nicely written here, which is a nice graphic from a website called BlockGeeks. Now, what happens here is that the validators go and they look at my transaction and they validate that indeed I signed that transaction. And then they put this into a pool of transactions. And at some point in time, what they do is they bundle these transactions together, which means they stack them in one piece of information. And thereby, what they do is they create a block of transaction, a block of information, and they append it to the blockchain. Now, what is the blockchain? First, we need to understand a block, right? So you saw in the last picture there were these blocks. So what information do they contain? Well, I said they contain transactions. So that's the main part. You have multiple different transactions here that are part of it. And then, and this is a key part, the block has basically some explanation of what it is. So it has something referred to as a header. If you've ever written a software program, you know that usually software programs start with some form of header, which explain what the piece of code is doing. So the first, and this is a very crucial component, there is a link to a past block. Then there is a number for the block. There's something called a Coinbase. It's basically a reward that is being awarded to the person who created this block. There's a timestamp that it says, when did this happen? There's some object which is referred to as a Merkle root, and there's something called a nonce. Now, all of these are different items that you have no idea what they mean, especially when you don't know what the Merkle root is. It's nothing to do with Angela Merkel. She's also spelled differently. You don't know what a nonce is, but we'll get there. Now, this is the architecture of a block. They all look similar. And here's how a blockchain works. So you start with a particular block. Say this block is number 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This block has a link to a past block, has Coinbase and nonce and other things that I've not talked about. Now let's look at the next block. What the next block has a particular link to this past block. So block 2, 3, 4, 5, 7 has a link to block 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then the next block again has another link. And this one links to block 2, 3, 4, 5, 7. So block 2, 3, 4, 5, 8 links to the previous block. Now it's called a blockchain because all of these blocks are chained together through these links. All right, so as you can see, there are many items here that require clarification. So we have a transaction, right? And we say the transaction has been digitally signed. So we have to ask questions such as, where does the address come from? And what does it mean that I digitally signed this transaction? The next question that we have to ask is, well, where does the link come from? How do we get the link to the past block, and why do we have this link? We want to understand what a Coinbase is, what it does, what does it relates to, and then we want to understand what a Merkle root is. Again, what is the role of that? What does it do, and why it is useful? And then we have to discuss what a nonce is. So that's a really weird word, and there's a lot that needs to be explained there. Now, all of these questions will be answered in detail, but I want to, in this lecture, only cover the principles of it. And then in the next set of classes or in the next set of presentations, we're going to look at where all these items come from.